Hello, and welcome to this special edition of Ask Dr. Gill, the podcast. This is a simulcast for those of you who are listening on this. This is really meant to be a video, but I threw it up on the podcast because some of you hear about me from the podcast arena. And the reason I'm doing this as a video is that this is a short introduction to the methylation cycle. Many of you who have read my articles or listened to my podcasts have asked questions about this and how things fit together. And I go through this in much greater detail in my course on methylation, and I have two courses that are out now. One is just about methylation and epigenetics. It's a short course meant to kind of give you the basics, and then I do a more detailed course that goes deeper into the topics, but also covers some other topics, including mitochondria and inflammation, because those are very important in terms of mental health, particularly anxiety. And then I also cover other causes of anxiety, testing that you can use and what tests are useful, and finally talk about the role of vitamins. Now, I geared the course, it's called Nutrients for Anxiety Relief, but it's true with most of the mental health issues, and really any health issues can be looked at from this point of view. But let's talk about methylation for a minute. Basically, if you're looking at this, you see there's the blue ring, which is the folic acid cycle, and then this gray ring, which is the methionine cycle. Now, when folic acid comes into the body, and I'm talking about natural folic acid for a minute, we get, this is tetrahydrofolate, which becomes 5,10-methyl tetrahydrofolate, which then becomes 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. And that is also known, as 5,10-MTHF reductase. That's the MTHFR. So for those of you who ask about MTHFR SNPs, which some people call them defects, but they're really not a defect. They're just a genetic variation in the enzyme. The MTHFR gene, or the enzyme rather, is working to convert 5,10-methyl TF to 5-methyl THF. And so this is how you get the 5-methyl THF. Now, these reactions, by the way, these two cycles are probably going like 1,000,000 times a second. And if you have a SNP that is, it generally slows that down a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. So that's the folic acid cycle. Now, with the 5-methyl THF, that is going to take homocysteine and recycle it back to methionine using the methionine synthase, or the MTRR. Now, vitamin B12 is a cofactor in this. And if you are supplementing with folic acid, I do recommend taking vitamin B12 to complement that. And actually, given that most grains are fortified, at least in the United States, with folate, I recommend taking vitamin B12 anyway, if you eat a lot of them, because otherwise you're going to get an imbalance. What happens is this builds up and it has nowhere to go. And so you really do need the B12 to kind of bring that out. Now, what's interesting about this, and I talk a little bit about this in my course, is that even though folate lowers homocysteine, it does not reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, which is what we expected to see, because high homocysteine is associated with cardiovascular disease. Very curious. They've known this for almost 20 years, and they still do not understand why that is. So, quick little tidbit. All right. So methionine, with ATP and magnesium, becomes SAMe, and the SAMe then pulls off the methylation products and then has the essidinyl homocysteine. And essidinyl homocysteine can actually go back and forth between homocysteine and essidinyl homocysteine. So you could have a normal homocysteine but a high SAH, and that will block your SAM from functioning properly. So this is why the plasma methylation test can be useful. I talk about that in the course. I also talk about how, for those of you who have high homocysteine but can't tolerate folate, that trimethylglycine or betaine can be useful to bring homocysteine back to methionine through an alternate pathway. And B6 is very important to pull homocysteine out of the system, and eventually it'll produce glutathione. So that's kind of the video that I have for you today. I have a lot more slides. I go into a lot more detail in the course, and it's actually really good information. I've only had it out a short amount of time and have been getting good feedback. So check out the course. You can find it on my website. There's actually a tab in the upper right that says courses, and I have information on both courses. And I will see you in the next podcast and/or video.